to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. We are here for a second of our four game previews of the divisional round, and this time it is a turn of the Houston Texans and the number one seed, the Baltimore Ravens. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and with me today in the purple corner is Ravens fan Shane Harris. Shane, first of all, how are things?
Andy, absolute pleasure as always to come on the show. You know that. And it's playoff football. I am terrified, but I am so pumped. I can't wait for Saturday night.
It's going to be a crack of a game. It will be the first game of the four. I believe it's 8 p.m. in the UK, or it might be 9 p.m. in the UK. It's the first one of the weekend, so it should be a cracker all the way to start it. And then in the blue and red corner, we have those returning to the show from last week. Back with us today is Texans fan Graham Henderson. Graham, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Still buzzing after last week, so I'm ready to get into some Ravens.
It should be a cracker. I'm so excited for that. I think I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to, I think, more than Packers Niners. I want to say I'm looking forward to more than Lions Bucks. And then I think Bills Chiefs. I think everyone knows that's the game of the week. But this one, certainly, I think both AFC games are going to be absolute crackers. And it's what a way to start it in Baltimore. So, of course, we have one fan whose team has been playing player football since about week 17, week 18 in Texans and Graham. But Shane, your team has really been on the beach the last 2 weeks. If you include week 18, not playing your starters, and really if you look at week 17, really the first half when it ended, the game was done. So really, you guys have really been in second gear probably the last 2.5, 3 weeks. So does that worry you, the fact that we saw what happened in 2019, Shane, the fact that you were number one seed back then, comes playoff time, divisional round, and you guys play against Titans and ultimately get humiliated. So does that worry you, the fact that it's happened before and you've lost games in the same situation? Does that worry you at all? Or is it the fact that Todd Monken's now there? It's a whole new coordinator, whole new coaching scheme. Does that almost make you think it's not going to be history repeating itself on Saturday?
Firstly, we don't talk about 2019. Right? There's a lot of similarities from 2019. We went on an 11-game win streak. Lamar won MVP, and we got bounced in the first round of the playoffs, and we were the number one seed. So yeah, of course, I am terrified of history happening again. And credit where credit's due. The Texans have played really well over the past few weeks. You know, they made the Browns look ordinary, which they kind of are. CJ Stroud is easily going to win rookie of the year 100% without a shadow of a doubt. They've got great weapons on offense and defense, and the weeks off, like you said, with the fact that we didn't play our starters against the Steelers, even though it's a massive rivalry game. I can see why John did that, and that's fair enough, to rest up. And the fact that we didn't play a game last week as well. So they may be a little bit rusty, but I honestly think, and I sent you a video about 10 minutes ago of Roquan Smith getting the players hyped before a game. I like to think that he's going to wind them up, and I like to think that, as I said before, I think, as I said on our podcast, shout out the third and long boys, that I think we'll win Saturday night. I really do, but it won't be easy. I think the Texans are a really good side. They're good, but they're not great.
Now, Shane, I will ask you a question. I learned this on the podcast literally about an hour and a half ago, waiting for my bus to go home from work. Can you guess in Lamar Jackson's 4 first quarters in his career in the playoffs, how many points had to score in the first quarter?
Oh, go on, surprise me. I'm not a big stat guy. Go on.
Graham's got it. Actually, he's alluding to it now. For those who can watch on YouTube, Graham, tell the audio listeners and Shane, who can't see Graham for some reason on Zoom, how many points he scored in all four first quarters?
0.
0 points. That is correct. And we look at these games that you've lost. So I know last year, that's really, I think, a bit of an asterisk on that one because of the injuries. But you look at the fact that you beat the Titans, but then you lost by 17 points to 3 against the Bills in the divisional round in the 2020 season. We mentioned 2019 season loses to the Titans 28-12. And then even the year before that, albeit in his rookie year, losing 23 points to 17. So most of those games are pretty, they're not even close in a lot of these games. And I think, Harbaugh was under pressure, I want to say it was 2018 or 2017 when people thought that maybe he wasn't quite the guy going to get you over level. And that's got to be something that does worry you going into the game because, we've seen it with Dak and Tua last weekend that really how you perform in a regular season, basically most of the time doesn't really matter in the postseason because at the end of the day, it's a whole different tournament. Basically, form goes out the window, and it's it's a reason why the Giants won the playoffs, won the Super Bowl even as the wild card team. I think that we've seen we've seen the number 2 seed knocked off this weekend. We've seen what was the number 2 in the AFC for a while this season knocked off this weekend, just gone. So really, for you, Shane, and there's a long going thing about MVP winners not winning Super Bowls. And Mahomes disproved that. But that was the first time since Kurt Warner did it in 1999 season. So there is that trend that goes around that a lot of these people that win quarterbacks that win MVP often do a lot in the postseason. Do you think Lamar Jackson can change that?
I like to think so. I think I'm absolutely in love with this team at the moment. There's strengths everywhere. The fact that they brought in OBJ, who, yeah, like I said when we spoke previously on a previous show, 15 million for one season is a ridiculous amount of money. But I like to think that he's earned it. And of course, I'm a big fan of our rookie phenom, Zay Flowers. What an incredible player to watch. He's going to be a Raven for years to come. And as I said, I alluded to the fact that Roquan Smith has been amazing. Matt BK has been amazing. He's really come out of his shell this year as well with 13, I think it's 13 sacks as well on the season. And with Roquan playing with Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen last year was a bit in and out. But I think Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, he's made Patrick Queen play better. And yeah, and I think it just, and the fact that you had Clowney in as well, who, he came from out of nowhere and he's put in his weight as well. The only thing I don't like about this game as well is the fact that Marlon Humphrey's out. I'm a big fan of Marlon Humphrey, but he's out for this week. And with Mark Andrews trending towards playing, I don't want him playing yet. I think if and it's a big if we get to the AFC Championship game, I think we should play him there. I don't think John should play him now. I think Likely has been playing really well in his place.
Yeah, I think like he's been. I think one of the nice surprises of the season that Mark Andrews goes out. You think probably we're not going to find anyone to do anywhere near as much as what Andrews produces, but like he's come in and I remember against ourselves he gave us a tough game, and I think that he is someone that Mark Andrews is not getting any younger, and I think that likely even if you go down the 2 tight end route, sort of set route, or even if you do go down the fact that Mark Andrews one day will leave or retire, I think likely coming in will be, he's proved that he can do it. Now, you mentioned the Ravens' potential rest. It's a complete opposite for the Texans. No expectations. Ravens are going into as the number 1 seed. A lot of people's favourites to win the AFC, but the Texans have really got no expectations. But the Packers, when they beat the Cowboys, no expectations. And that does make a huge difference. So for you, Graham, with the Texans, obviously, you boys are going to be, no real pressure on you got to win this game or even win the last game. Even if you were home, it was still seen as 50-50. So does that almost give you confidence, Graham, the fact that if you lose, no one's going to be that upset because just to get here is the achievement itself, and you've won a division. And then also, if you win the game, it's like an amazing achievement, and you'll be playing your first ever title game. Now, does that almost give you confidence, the fact that it's going to be a game where really it's a win-win?
Yeah, I think so. Like the season we've had has been it's been a spectacular season for us. There's no denying that, and how far we've come in such a short time. That 1 year bounce that we've had and getting us into the playoffs, winning the division. I think the only pressure will come from probably that this is usually our stopping point. Anytime we've come in to the playoffs, we've gotten this far, we've never managed to get over the hump. So I think really the pressure will come from the organisation trying to get that one next step, And who's to say if we don't get that next step, we can't take the other one? We just keep tumbling forward into the Super Bowl. But it's going to be a really tough game. Baltimore, obviously, have been heavy favourites for a long time. I would say, especially after their win against San Francisco a few weeks ago. But I think the way the Texans have been playing it, it's almost like a no fear way of style of playing they've got just now. There's some young guys doing some incredible things. CJ Stroud, obviously a huge talent. Will Anderson, also a huge talent. But there's some guys that have been around the league that are stepping up as well. You know, like your Blake Cashmans, he's stepping up. Grenard's been there a couple of years now. He's getting multiple sacks now. Nico Collins, look at his numbers this year because he's got CJ. So we have got deep threats in that, and we're looking pretty healthy going into this game. That's one huge thing. I think we've got Beck's questionable with a back, Fant's questionable with an illness, and I think Jerry Hughes he's out again this week. But the last report I seen was Mark Andrews is trending to not play this weekend. Yeah. So that'll probably boost us a little bit, you know, because he would be such a threat. I think we play quite soft against the tight ends. You know, tight ends can usually feast against our defense. So probably the fact that he won't be there, and I know Langley's done a good job in there, but when you've got that number one tight end threat, like Dalton Schultz for us, number one tight end threat, like some of the catches he's made, that contested catch against the Titans and stuff, that's what the number one tight end thinks. That muscle and stuff. But I'm feeling quite confident because some of the stars seem to be aligning for us. You know, Houston had some really cold weather at the start of the week, and they've forced the team outside to train in it. You know, and I think it's actually been colder than Baltimore, so they've been getting used to like running plays in the cold weather. And I know it's snow and stuff, but just those little factors, it's not going to be like a shock to the system like maybe Miami had when they went up to Kansas City. So yeah, there's a lot trending our way, and it's been a saying that's been thrown about. I've used it as well. It's like the Green Bay Packers. Yes, it's house money for the Texans. You know, they can't look at themselves as having a bad season if they get beaten this game. So why not just go out there and play the kind of ball that you've been playing the last few weeks? You know, we went up to Indy, very loud, extremely loud, and look at that first play off scrimmage to Nico Collins for like 75 yards. You know, there's a no fear element to this team, and it's exciting, but you just can't help but get caught up in it, and you just want your team to succeed and go past the Ravens. And then if we get past the Ravens, because I think, have you guys not got like the number 2 defense in the league or something?
Number one, yeah, it was the Browns, but it's us now.
Yeah, so what we did to the number 1 defense the week prior, there's no reason to be that afraid of playing any different or any less aggressive against like the new number 1 defense. You know, so there's a lot going for us. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that will, you know, I think that's why I want to touch on CJ Stroud, because we've seen basically in one playoff game for Stroud what a lot of quarterbacks haven't done in 5, 6, 7 games. It's that fearless and that already in just one game being extremely comfortable in the big game. And really, you look at even the Week 18 game, that's 2 massive games in a row where he's just come in and looked like someone who'd been in the league for 7, 8 years. I mean, if you'd had a complete NFL novice come in, never seen a game before, and you asked him, this number 7 for the Texans, how old do you reckon he is? How long do you reckon he's been in the league? I reckon most people watching it would say he's a veteran. He's one of the best in the league. He's been in the league for 5, 6 years. So to do what he did in just one game, we look at people like Dak Prescott, Tua, you know, albeit Tua had one game as well, but these guys have been constantly criticised for not performing in big games or only playing well when it suits them weather-wise. You know, I think Lamar Jackson does slightly fall into that category. Justin Herbert falls in the category. People just haven't yet done it in the big games. But for Stroud to do that in just one game and just completely tear apart the number 1 defense in the league, like they were at the time, I think it speaks volume about just how it must feel for you guys. I mean, obviously you were this team back in 2017, 2018 when Watson first came through, and you guys were perennial contenders when he was there. And obviously the whole thing explodes, and you know it's all goes west, and you know that looked like for years that was going to really affect your franchise. And you know, you look at the fact that everyone mocked Lovie Smith for winning that game and on the final week and getting you the number two selection. But you look at so far, and really, it's obviously you may have gone number 1 anyway. You may have picked CJ Stroud, you may have had those picks from Chicago, but you may have traded down and not gone for a quarterback and thought about going it for next year. So I think for all of that, and you've basically just almost gone back to your 2019 self now. I think for Stroud to do what he's doing in these games, I mean, I would kill for a quarterback who's confident in big games, who can give fans confidence. So for you, Graham, it must be amazing. Must be amazing watching that game, and just thinking, "Wow, we've got ourselves a real star here."
Yeah, the thing with him as well is he's really humble, and he doesn't seem to like get big headed or anything. He's very good with the rest of the locker room. They've all really gravitated towards him. They know he's the leader of this team right out of the gates, and I think that's brilliant to see. One advantage as well that I think that we've got is Stroud played Baltimore in week 1, and if you remember back in preseason, he had a horrible start against the Patriots, and they actually I think they took him out early because he was playing so bad. Now week 1, the Ravens will have some tape on him and stuff from that game, but I think he'll be a totally different player to that game. That also works in our favor. Yeah, they'll have tape from other games and stuff, but there's nothing like first-hand experience. And luckily enough that Lamar was being Lamar when we played him, so there's going to be a lot more for our line to take from that. Personally, what I'm thinking about that. And after that game, I think John Harbaugh said that this is a good team. We beat a good team. They're going to get a lot of wins along the road, and I don't think a lot of people believed it. And then when we beat the Browns, I think John started working on the Texans. He doubled down on the Texans because he thought the results were going to go the other way in the other games, and they went to work straight away. So I think they're not taking us that lightly. You know, I'm expecting a really tough game this weekend. But I think CJ's up to it. He'll just be CJ. He'll just sling it. And he does it with such ease. I don't know if you watched the way he throws it. He doesn't even look like he's put much effort in it, and he's banging his bombs.
It does look effortless. Fair play to him. You've got a diamond there for many years to come.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And he's not scared to stand in the pocket, you know, and go through his reads and find his open man. And even against the Browns last week, he took a couple haymakers in the backfield, but he still hit his mark, which was brilliant. So I'm fully expecting Lamar to be just Lamar this weekend. You know, that really tricky player. If he can't get it with his arm, he's going to get it with his feet. So we're going to have to be on our game.
Yeah, and I think for you guys, I think we talked about there the Ravens maybe not being a first quarter team in playoffs. I think even if it wasn't the case, I think you still need to look at, if you win the toss, get the ball first. I think you have to try and establish a lead early, because I think if you guys can get your first drive and get that touchdown, I think that could really start to worry the Ravens, and they'll know immediately we're in for a game here. And I think that any head coach who doesn't take teams lightly, I think that's a recipe for disaster. So I think I think Harbaugh, he needs to. I think at this point you have to take every team. Treat every team with respect, and you have to not take any team lightly. And I think that's going to be key as well for Harbaugh. He wants to avoid a shock loss. But for you, Shane, it may have to down to your defense, because it may be one of those games where both quarterbacks excel. I mean, I did just criticize Lamar Jackson, but I got to give him credit. Against the Niners on prime time, he beat them with ease. Against the Dolphins on prime time, he was like the Niners game, life and blood of that offense, and he was slinging it with his arm. And then also then as well, the game I went to where I got the hat you're wearing, Shane, from. And
thank you very much. Yes, you did. I love it. Thank you so much.
No problem. But that game as well, that was another one where, again, it wasn't prime time, but it was one of the games of the week. It was 5-1 against 5-1, or was it 5-1 against 40, something like that. Two teams that were, one of the best records at the time, and he just absolutely tore the Lions to pieces. And the Lions are a team that have, made the divisional round, and they're probably going to be making the NFC title game. So he has, in this season, he has been, a big part of all their big wins, whereas maybe some quarterbacks you wouldn't say, like aka Purdy and Tua, maybe aren't the reason why people win games. Lamar Jackson has been that reason why you've won games for a lot of them. But I think for you, Shane, for the Ravens, I think one thing that may actually win you games this weekend is probably your defense. And I think you mentioned it then. Number one defense in the league still remaining. And I think someone like Roquan Smith is going to be such a big part of it because the sixth most tackles, I believe it was, in the regular season. He is just something else. And I think that you guys, if it is going to be, I'm predicting it's going to be a shootout, 30 points or 30 points, that kind of region. You're going to need to make a big stop to win the game. It's going to be basically the last team with the ball wins the game. So for me, I think the Ravens, that could almost be, I think both teams, but particularly the Ravens, how good your defense is, that could almost win you the game. A final drive from the Texans, you could go down the field and you make a big stop. Just how crucial do you think that would be, not only for this game, but if you advance in the game against the Chiefs or the Bills?
There's people that were born to play for the Baltimore Ravens. Ray Lewis being one of them, and Roquan Smith being the other. You can just see it. What an absolute master stroke to bring him over from Chicago. He's fit in the offense, like a glove. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's basically made himself a leader after a season and a half of that defense. And he's just been brilliant. And the fact that people often overlook Geno Stone as well. 12 interceptions on the year.
Pro Bowl,
he's been. I think he's second behind Deron Bland for the Cowboys, and he's just been brilliant. And it's the fact that I'm not sure if anybody saw it, but the weather in Baltimore at the moment looks like the weather in Buffalo from the weekend. Yeah, and I even put on Twitter, give me a shovel, I'll be over now, sort of thing. But yeah, it's so, and I think it will come down to how the Ravens and the Texans will play in that sort of environment. It's like, obviously Houston's a lot warmer than Baltimore, so maybe they'll struggle a little bit, but as Graham said, they've been out in the elements, training in the elements to get themselves ready for this matchup on Saturday night. Graham, I will say one thing. Your man cave is absolutely beautiful. I am ridiculously jealous. There's a distinct lack of purple in there, I got to be honest.
There's one thing here related to the Ravens, I think. Believe it or not.
I love it.
I got sent a wooden spoon from a guy I met at one of the Ravens games in London. And he, am I allowed to swear on here? No.
Yeah.
Well, he sent me a wooden spoon with a note in it saying, I've sent you this wooden spoon to stir up some between for the Texans Ravens rivalry. Now that was back when after that game happened. So yeah, there's some Ravens elements in here, and I've got a Ravens pin in here somewhere as well from the same guy.
It's a beautiful setup. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
It wasn't the guy that you were on that NFL UK live thing with, was it? Was that the same guy?
No, it was the one guy I met in Admiralty. He was class, season ticket holder. He called me one of those guys, because I'm what I wear on game day with the horns and the kilt. And
one of them lot.
Yeah, he's like, you're one of those guys. So that's how it starts. The header of the letter is to one of those guys. So class, but I've got it framed. It's up on the wall, framed. So I treat like fans with a lot of respect that have shown me nothing but love, and it doesn't matter if they're from my team or your team. It's just how it should be.
Absolutely, and I think it's anyone who hasn't seen it yet it's definitely on Twitter. I don't know about YouTube, but there's a NFL UK post where Graham gets given a Super Bowl ticket by Ryan Fitzpatrick. And there's a whole feature on Graham's Man Cave. So those of you that haven't yet checked it out, do go check it out. And I believe it's still on Game. It's on Game Pass as well. So if you scroll back far enough, you can find it on there as well. All about Graham's Man Cave in Scotland. Now, a final talking point for you, Graham. We actually mentioned it last week, was your run defense. Now you've got the 7th best pass defense in the league this season, in the regular season, in terms of passing yards allowed or per game. But you've got the 10th worst run defense when it comes to yards allowed per game. And we all know the Ravens like to, and I think obviously Lamar Jackson's passing is underrated, but we all know the main strength of this offense is the run game that Baltimore have. Whether it's Gus Edwards, whether it was back in the day J.K. Dobbins before his injury, or whether it's Lamar Jackson.
We've also brought in Dalvin Cook as well.
He'll do nothing. He is washed. I think Jets fans can speak for that.
Look at it, man. Look at it.
I'm so relieved we didn't get him, because if we'd got him and not got A-Chain, that would have been disastrous. Not that it mattered, we still lost in the playoffs anyway. But does that worry you? Like it when you dealt with most of the game, you dealt with the Browns run game. You know, Kareem Hunt scored a touchdown early on, but most of the game they were pretty well contained. Do you think that you guys, you mentioned before, the number one defense in the league, you dismantled them, but do you think that your defense can be up to the challenge of stopping this Ravens offense that is basically a dual threat? They can throw the ball at you, they can run the ball at you, and do both with a lot of effect. So, yeah, how much does that worry you or not worry you about the run defense?
I think it's always a worry, especially when if you look back to the Indianapolis game, Jonathan Taylor managed to his numbers were over 100. So, but we've come a long way. I think we were last in run defense last year, so we have improved immensely. But I don't know if you've seen the footage or the video of D'Amico Ryan speaking to Christian Harris on the sidelines. Have you seen that
Not
video?
seen that, no.
Okay, so he has the tablet, and he's talking to Christian Harris, and he's saying if you sit in there and wait for the quarterback, and then if you jump up on him, you'll get a pick. And then that next play was his pick six.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I know Miko's a great defensive coach. He was the captain of our defense when he played in the sport. So he's gonna find a way to be effective, but whether or not it comes to fruition is another thing. And as for Zay Flowers, I would love to see Stingley sat on his shoulder all game, because he shut down Amari Cooper. If you think back, he had 240 plus yards against us the first game. The next game, when Stingley covered him on 80% of his 80% of snaps, he had -6 yards when Stingley was covering him. So, you've got to match talent with talent, and Zay's obviously a very talented player. So there's going to be some great matchups. I just hope we can contain Lamar. It's when the plays break down and he just makes plays with his legs, and nobody's in position at that point. That's going to be the biggest issue. Very hard to contain that man. And another thing to stop, and not to bore you, but the Ravens have been very effective against everyone who used to come off that 49ers offensive branch.
Oh, Kyle Shanahan. Please don't mention Kyle Shanahan to me. I hear it enough on our podcast.
But yeah, you schooled the Niners, you handled them, their defense, even the defensive side of the ball. And if you think Miko's been there for a couple of years, he's maybe taken a few things from that. So maybe that'll work against us, because the Ravens, when they played the Niners, were very well equipped to handle them. They had a lot of answers. So that's a worry as well, that, Slowick coming from there, Miko having that influence there. Are those factors going to suit the Ravens as well? So hopefully not, but you never know.
I guess we will see. And that is where we'll come into our prediction. So we're all going to give our predictions. Who's going to win the game and the score? So Shane, you first. Who's winning the game and what's the score going to be?
I've got to go with us. I have to. And I said it on our show last night as well. I think we'll win on Saturday night, but I think we'll come unstuck in the AFC title game against the Bills.
Interesting. Double downing on the predictions there.
Yeah. I know who my pick to win the whole thing is, but like I said, don't tell Phil and Ollie, because I'll never hear the end of it. Right?
Same as me then.
Yeah, let's keep that one under my beautiful hat. Okay, fine. 31-27 Ravens.
Okay, interesting. Graham, over to you for your score prediction and winner.
I think I'm going to go with the Texans. Okay, I'm going to let my heart rule this one. I've just got a feeling there's something brewing there, and the Texans are going to pull off an upset. They're 10 points down or 9.5 down in the betting. Last time something like that happened, it was the Tennessee Titans who went up to Baltimore and beat them.
Don't talk about that.
AFC South guys going up with a 10-point deficit. the story writers are maybe repeating themselves a bit here, but I think we're going to get it, and I think it's going to be 23-20.
Oh,
It's
okay.
interesting you mentioned that with 10-point thing when you just completely forgot to mention that you were 24 points up against the Chiefs in the divisional round in 2019 as well.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
As I said, 2019 didn't happen.
Yeah,
Anything
but I
pre-COVID
wiped
didn't
that
happen,
out.
right?
Those
And
2
I
days.
also think it'll be the Bills, by the way.
Interesting.
I will double down on that. I think it'll be the Bills that will be playing.
Okay, interesting. That makes 3 of us as well with Bills. I think they're going to win the AFC as well. Now, for me, I've got the most interesting selection because Ravens fan picks a Raven, Texan fans picks the Texans. I'm not too shocked. But for me, of course, I am the neutral in this. Now, am I going to side with Shane or am I going to side with
Do
Graham?
it. Don't do it.
I am siding with Graham. I think the Texans are going to keep rolling.
Everyone's saying that.
I think it's going to happen. I think the Ravens are going to be bit rusty. The Texans are going to keep that ball rolling. CJ Stroud is going to basically announce himself to the world that I'm actually the next great quarterback. Because me personally, he's had the best first year starting for me since Mahomes. Although I think I've not been impressed with someone that much since Mahomes in their first year of starting. So for me, I think the Texans keep it rolling. I think whatever happens, I think they will lose to the Bills or the Chiefs. But I think to get you guys first ever AFC game, I think that's an amazing achievement. So yeah, I don't really mind who. I think I do want Texans to win because I do want that Lions Texans. Neither team's won it. Super Bowl. That would be just an amazing experience. But for me,
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that is the people's champion when it comes to games that neutrals want to see. I think that is the majority. I wouldn't mind Baker making it. I like Baker. I want him to do well, but I think you've got to have the Lions winning it for all their years of hurt. I think, and it's got to be them. But that's where we'll end the podcast for today in our second of 4 game previews. Huge thank you once again to Shane and Graham for coming on.
Thank you, Matt. Anytime you know that, Graham, best of luck. See you Saturday night.
Same, Shane. Been a pleasure talking ball with you.
Yes, absolute pleasure. Let's do it again sometime.
Yep.
And that is where we'll end the podcast on that lovely, lovely note. I've been, as ever, your host, Andy Davis. This has been Shane Harris. This has been Graham Henderson. And we will see you guys our next episode, which will be Lions Against Us. See you then.